Hello, hello, and welcome to yet another webinar. This one is called Business Analyst in the Vast Data World. And my name is Kirilo, and I'm a Business Analysis Office Director at a company called SoftServe. I will be hosting this webinar and presenting our speaker today. But before we do that, let's check if our chat works. So let me know where are you joining this webinar from. So you can put it in the chat, like what country, what city, what is the weather there. That's also interesting to know. I'm, for instance, joining from Dnipro, Ukraine. The weather is not very good, but it's pretty bearable. So let's see what we have. Oof, a lot of responses. The chat seems to work. So we have Sofia, okay, Bulgaria, Poland, Lviv, Guadalajara, Mexico, wow, California, wow, what a great variety of locations. Okay, we have Kharkiv, Ukraine, Sofia, Lviv, Boston, Dnipro, Kiev, Portugal. Wow, really a lot of different places. Poland, Białystok, cold as always. Okay, I don't know if it's a good or bad, but I think you like it. Kiev, we have Sofia, we have Bucharest, we have also Ukraine, Spain. The weather is the weather in Spain, I assume is great, right? You don't want to tell us that. Raleigh, North Carolina. Mexico, Kharkiv. Wow, great. Thank you for sharing. That's amazing. We know several things already that we are being broadcasted to a lot of places and that the chat works. Now, I have another question for you. Like, if we have any newcomers here, like if it's your first time for like this Beacon webinar that we have, let us know in the chat if it's like the first time that you're joining us for the series. Okay, we have at least several newcomers. Okay, welcome. I hope you like it. Just so that you know, it's not the first one. We have much more. We have like done a lot of such webinars, and you can find it on YouTube. They're all recorded. They're all available. Okay, we have a lot of pluses from Alina. I'm not sure if that means like it's your fourth time or is it the first time. But that's great. Okay, so let's start this a little bit slow. I'll do some introductory, and then I'll pass the floor to our speaker. So as I mentioned, today's webinar is called Business Analyst in the Vast Data World, and obviously we're going to talk about some data. But before that, I will just tell you a few words about the SoftServe company, like the company which just so happened that both of us, like me and our speaker today, represents. So SoftServe, if you don't know, it's like a tech company which specializes in consulting service and software development in a lot of different fields and industries and technologies. Like you can see some examples on the slide, but basically we like work in every domain, in every technology, like you name it, we have a project in it. And we have quite a great established business analysis office, which was like born in 2012. And now we have around 430 business analysts, so located in different places all over the world and working in different domains with different technologies and different experiences. And we like to share our experience, we like to share our knowledge, and this is why we introduced that series of webinars that you're now lucky to join. Also, just a few words about our educational projects. Like, as probably you know, we have some online courses around business analysis. So today I'm going to talk about just a few of them. So the first one is a Business Analysis Foundation course, which is a course developed for beginners. I would say people who'd like to introduce themselves to what business analysis is, maybe structure their knowledge about this profession, and basically start working or start their way as business analysts in IT. So currently we already have one group which is currently like sold, and ongoing education. And we are going to open registration and start like inviting people to our courses in April 2024. So just look out for that. And another course which we're going to have, and this is just the first half of this year, and so probably we'll have some more like towards the middle of the year, and I will of course talk about that. The other one is certification bootcamp. So that is actually a bootcamp for BA practitioners to prepare for IABA certifications such as ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP. So this bootcamp is designed specifically for the purpose of passing, for preparing for certification and passing the exam. And we are partners with International Institute of Business Analysis. Of course, those courses are endorsed by IABA, and you can get some PDUs when you pass those courses and get your certificates. And then you can later use that for certification purposes. And yeah, thank you, Marta. We have a link also in the chat. So if you're interested, you can just follow that link and know more about those courses, and feel free to address us with any questions. We'll be happy to support you and answer all the questions that you might have. Before I introduce our speaker, just a few words about rules or like organizational stuff. So please be active, please ask your questions and leave your comments in the chat. For those of you who are connected through Zoom, you can see we also have the Q&A box. So usually we ask people to leave questions in Q&A box, but we know that you tend just to put it in the chat, and it's also fine. Just be active and ask as many questions as you want as you can, and hopefully our speaker today will answer all of them. There is a possibility to raise a hand, but there is no possibility to unmute you. So like, don't try. I mean, you can try, but like nothing will happen. So if you have a question, it's better to put it into the chat or the Q&A box, and raising the hand will just raise a hand, and unfortunately we cannot unmute you. So those are the rules. And now, without further ado, let me introduce our speaker today. It's Desislava Solakova, Senior Business Analyst at SoftServe. She has more than 11 years of experience in IT industry. She's passionate about learning and helping others, that's for sure. I know she's like a great mentor in our company, and also participates in those courses, and drives some lectures and workshops for you, for our students. And she has a lot of experience in various industries such as banking, e-commerce, retail, and basically enjoying the day-to-day analysis activities supported by CCBA certification and CBDA certification, which is a certified business data analyst. And I think we're going to talk a lot about data and business analysis, and yeah, all that stuff today. So let me pass the floor to Desi. Let me stop sharing my screen, and Desi, take it away.
Thank you, Kirilo, for that introduction. Thank you all for joining us today. It's awesome to have so many nice people from all over the world. And yeah, it's fun. Today we'll be talking about data, and Kirilo already used his power showing some slides with data. But we won't be asking him how he gathered that one and whether he was helped by fellow business analysts. Okay. I will be sharing my screen in a little, but I will ask you guys to feel free and let us know in the chat whether any of you is already certified in the data analytics domain. Will be interesting to see other brave people who took that step towards the new future, which is data related, fortunately or unfortunately. So while I'm sharing the screen, let's see some activity in the chat. Okay, I'm not seeing happy people being certified. Okay, something popping in the chat. Minuses. Okay, that's awesome. So maybe we can interest you in that topic.
But people are actively putting minuses. That's also great.
Yeah, that's also awesome. That's true. Okay, that's cool. Okay. Well, while we are sitting on that first slide, I will use some time to sit on that first slide, which you've already seen, but I'll keep you there for a little longer. And will tell you my little story of why I'm so interested in data and why I finally took that step into getting certified in the domain. And while you are listening to my funny story from a long time ago, please feel free to also put in the chat what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear a data related project. And I'm just starting my story, which will not stop you from typing. So it's been a long time ago. I was working for a large bank, and this is where I started my career as a business analyst. And fortunately or not, I was dropped into a domain which was mainly related to working with a reporting system. This is how I started. And I've spent there a couple of years. Spending there a couple of years means I've spent much more in the bank itself, but I did spend a couple of years also working with the reporting system. As you can imagine, I had to work with different kinds of stakeholders. We had a retail department, we had a corporate department, and they all needed something. So what we were mainly doing was we were providing some requirements related to some reports. So we had business people coming to us, asking us to get them some report. We were providing those requirements to the developers. They were playing around, right? Fetching data. They had data sources, fetching data, working on that one, providing that report back to us. We also did some testing, so I was also in that domain. And then we pass it back to the business people. And at that time, I would say, when I was beginning, I didn't think of much. What is that data behind? I didn't also have the access, right? So I couldn't see what's happening. But as you can imagine, with the years, I just got more acquainted with what's available across the systems of the bank. It became more and more interesting. And there was this one day when I had a colleague coming from the retail banking department and asking me, we have to have a very urgent extract of people because we are going to use them for a campaign that we're going to launch next week. As you can imagine, the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, that's bad. I mean, next week is very short term, right? Um, but then we started looking into that. It was supposed to be a very simple thing, one time exercise, so nothing super complicated. And I was looking into her requirements and I was thinking something is not really right. And this is how it all started. We started questioning why exactly that data. Don't you think it's going to be better if for your specific campaign we do something different for you? And I remember that we changed 70% of the requirements for that list of people because we were thinking out loudly around what is the best option in that case. And that campaign was actually successful. So I'd say, that was like a door opening for me, where I thought, okay, data is actually awesome. I mean, you can use it in any manner so that you can either take a proper decision or you can push the business into some action, and that can lead to some awesome results. And I see a lot of awesome responses in the chat as well. I saw a lot of SQLs and databases and data migrations. Okay. Um, okay. What else? API integrations. Okay. Yeah. Data lakes. Reportings, visualizations. Yes. Widgets. Okay. And you guys are going into the right direction when you're thinking about data and data analysis. But what we are actually going to talk about today is going to be on a little different level. So I won't be teaching you anything around SQL or databases. That's definitely not my domain. But we will be talking a little around why is it so hot today to speak about data why the projects that are data related are becoming so hot, and what is the actual place of the analyst in that space, and whether it's a good or a bad place to be, so to say. Okay, and I'll be happy if you guys keep on throwing your thoughts in the chat. If you have questions, I would also recommend that you add that into the questions and answers tab. I will try to follow both, but just to make sure that we don't skip someone's question. Okay, and we slowly start with, why is it so hard to talk about data these days? And what you can see on the right side is actually data-based already. So you can see that visualization that is showing you the growth of the data over the past years. As you can imagine, that has also been very much pushed by the COVID. Fortunately or unfortunately, we were getting faster digitalized over that period. And there are researches that have shown that the data has tripled just in the past 4 years. And we are already talking about volumes in zettabytes. And I tend to be a mathematical person, and I can tell you that I cannot imagine that number if I'm just thinking about, a circle. That's kind of a progressively growing circle that you cannot imagine anymore. And there is one thing that we have to keep in mind. Back in the days when I was young and started working for the bank, we had phones, but these phones were only used for talking. That's the main activity they could do. But today's generation is actually fully digitalized. I bet you cannot imagine your life without your smartphone anymore, or without all of the devices that you have at home, most probably tablets, computers, everything in one. And we are more and more communicating using these channels, which means that we are also expecting the business to be ready to respond to us in the same manner. Imagine, as an example, around the COVID era, how our shopping changed. So it was not just around us going to the supermarket, buying some stuff, or it's not anymore about clothes, right? We are talking already about food because that was the easiest way to get the products at home. And all of these different e-commerce sites popped up that were actually offering this activity. So now when I go and I order my products, well, they already know, right, what I am interested in, what I'm most often ordering. In a manner, they're gathering data behind, right, where they can figure out my behavior as a customer. The next day, I will most probably buy 70% same stuff and I will change a little. But how is that helpful for the business? Well, knowing my customer behavior, they can build up a strategy around it and actually offer for me those products that I'm buying mostly, and maybe they can also, offer a range of things around it so that I can buy more next time when I join. At the same time, I, as a customer, am also happy with that, and on the next site where I go and I want to interact, I want to buy something, I have a similar behavior. I'm already expecting that the business is ready behind the scenes and they can offer more for me based on what they have already seen from my behavior. This is how actually data grows worldwide, and it keeps on growing faster and faster. That might be a little scary, but at the same time, we know that together with the growing of the data, we also have growing capabilities in how we can manage that data. And it is true to say that there is an increased processing power today. There are much more opportunities when it comes to mobility and connected devices. The cost of computing is dropping, maybe not as fast as everyone is expecting, but still it is dropping, which is making analytics something viable for many, many organizations, even smaller ones. And you are most probably aware that big data and analytics as two words have actually become so picky these days. So everyone is interested to understand what actually sits behind that, right? Interesting stuff. Now we will go back a little into, we're talking about data. We are facing that every day. We have all of these data related projects that we're also facing every day. But what exactly are we referring to when we are looking into the business data analytics? And we had some great questions even before the webinar. So I've taken the chance to actually enhance a little that slide. And I won't be reading those definitions to you, but I've put them there more as of a reminder. And I will tell you my analogy around the business analysis and how it differs or is similar to the business data analytics. So, what is in short the day to day thing that we do? So, as business analysts, the main thing that we're supposed to do is we are supposed to help people to enable change. So, every day in companies, they are making some decisions. Based on these decisions, they want to make some change, which is going to drive something cool for them. They're going to open an opportunity or solve a problem. And this is where we step in as business analysts. We are helping them out through that process of enabling the change. And we do that by looking into what's already there and being capable of providing different solutions to any kind of stakeholder. Another magic that the business analyst does. We can talk to different people. Where the business data analytics sits in all of that? Well, if you can imagine the business analysis as a vast field where you can grow any crop, I can say that the business data analytics can be part of your field. It might be a must today to actually be capable of understanding data projects and being able to fit into them. But you should never forget that there is business analysis outside of the business data analytics as well, because there are still processes that might require your attention or changes in the enterprise that might require your attention, but they're not going to be closely related to data. What is the good thing around business data analytics? It's another set of techniques and practices that we can use as a weapon so that we can help our stakeholders when they're driving change in their enterprises. Awesome. I will stop here. I don't see any questions in the chat. So I will just ask you guys, feel free to drop in your questions if you have such. And we'll just keep on going. Okay. Here, I wanted to also share to you a little around the certification that I have passed. We won't be stopping like in details around it, but with that analogy around the field, I wanted to share that even if you look into the IIBA's list of certifications, you will notice that there is a set of core certifications. These are those that are actually teaching you, showing you what is the framework around the business analysis. Any additional certification that you're passing or any additional knowledge that you're gaining, which might be related to Agile, might be related to product ownership, or in that case, we're talking about data analytics. It's actually an additional weapon into your work where you can support yourself into helping your stakeholders. And maybe just to talk a little around what exactly is analytics, because we are using these terms and they might be seeming still a little vague. The analytics itself is the science that is occupied with examining the raw data and any information that can be drawn out of that data. So any insights that you can get out of it. And what the business data analytics does is actually helping for an effective business decision making process. The business data analytics cycle is meant to answer a question. So we as analysts, again, we start by asking a question so that we can understand what the current state is, what are we trying to achieve, what is the change that we are trying to achieve at that stage. And we are using data instead of only simple techniques which are not really simple at all. But we are using data to also support that process. When is data analysis coming? Data analysis is coming at the end of that cycle, when we already have some results that are coming out of the data based on the question that we have asked, and then we can take a look and analyze the results that we have gathered out of that research. And since we're talking about analytics, you can see on the top, the International Institute of Business Analysis has categorized the analytics into 5 segments. The first 2 of them are called to be traditional. They have already been there for a number of years. They are not something new, not something picky. They were even there when I was working with data back in the days in the bank. And the other 3 are actually something which is a little more advanced and is also supported by today's capabilities of technology. Which are these analytics? So the traditional ones are the descriptive and the diagnostic analytics. The descriptive analytics itself, it calls by the name, it's using historical data to understand, to answer a question of what happened. The diagnostic, on the other hand, fills a gap between the descriptive and already the advanced analytics, the predictive analytics, trying to understand why certain thing happened. Both of these are using historical data, so there's nothing unusual around them. We're just looking into large data sets and trying to figure out what happened and why it happened. When we're looking into the advanced analytics, we already have predictive analytics, which is helping us out to understand what could happen. As an example of this one, and that's again something that has already been present over the years, it's not a brand new thing, it's just been supported by the new technologies. But as an example, you can look into the fraud detection. So you have a large set of data, mainly used today by the banks and the financial institutions. And they are analyzing this large set of data. They're noticing what are the trends when it comes to fraud. And then you can apply certain algorithms so that for the future, you can figure out whether certain transaction is coming as a fraud or not. Today, there are more sophisticated tools that can support this and more sophisticated technologies. Back in the times, that was still done. It was done via analyzing large sets of data. The next one is the prescriptive analytics. And the prescriptive analytics, it goes a step beyond. It already uses some techniques that could suggest actions that a business could do in order to achieve something. So it's answering the question, what should we do? And it's combining the descriptive and the predictive analytics. So it's giving us an idea of what has happened in the past, but based on this one, it can already tell us what we should do so something else can happen in the future. And the last one is the cognitive analytics, where we are already talking about the employment of the artificial intelligence, helping us out to automate and augment the possibilities for decision making. And it's mainly answering the question, can we cause something to happen? So we're talking about much more sophisticated algorithms behind the calculations. I will stop here. We have 2 questions in the chat, so let's talk about them. We have an anonymous attendee. How can a BA effectively bridge the gap between traditional business strategies and modern data analytics approaches? Okay, this is going to be something that we will look into a little down the presentation, but just to give you an idea, it requires an effort in order to pass from a traditional business strategy into a modern analytics approach. The effort is going to be spread on different levels, And it's most probably not an easy one to pass through, especially for those organizations that are not mature enough and not ready to easily take that step. I will leave that question open, and as we go, we will figure whether we will answer that per your expectations. Okay, how do traditional analytic categories compare to advanced analytics in terms of impact on business strategy formulation, and what role do BAs play in facilitating the transition from traditional to advanced analytics within organization? Is asking us Howard. Okay, if you think about the traditional analytics and the advanced analytics, I wouldn't say that you need to pass from one to the other necessarily. The role of the business analyst in working around analytics keeps being the same. So no matter whether you're working with traditional analytics or with advanced analytics, you still have to be present there and be the light into defining what is the right question. So the key role here of the business analyst will be into formulating the right question. What exactly are we looking to understand when we are looking into the data? So the difference here between the traditional and the advanced analytics would be that when you are formulating a question, you are going to be looking in the past when it comes to the traditional analytics, and you can look into the future when you're looking into the advanced analytics. For advanced analytics categories, you'll be also able to actually start formulating hypotheses and test them out based on the data that you have. What the other role might be of the BA when it comes to passing from one step to the other, so growing from the traditional to the advanced analytics? Well, I would say is a typical change within an enterprise, right? So you are changing the mindset from just looking into the past and looking for trends into the past, but by also starting to think about the future and how you can act when you're looking in the data for the future. So what the role might be here for the business analyst. The business analyst can actually drive that change, understanding what are the goals for the enterprise, so how they can achieve more by using advanced analytics, by defining goals, objectives, by helping them out to drive from that one step to the other one step. And here, as usual, we have to be careful, right, to not force organizations that might not be mature enough into that step if they're not ready to go so, but rather look for those solutions that are going to be properly corresponding to the maturity of the company and also to what they have as sources behind, because they might still not have enough sources so they can work in the advanced analytics categories. Okay. Okay, we'll take another one. What skills, knowledge must junior data analysts have start with? Okay, I will take first this one. I would say when you're thinking about data analysts and analysis related to data, first of all, you need to have the knowledge around the business analysis itself. So if you're thinking again about that large field where data analytics can be only portion of it, you have to understand the business from scratch. So when you're starting as a junior, that first thing would be dig into understanding more around how businesses function, around what opportunities they're looking for, around what are their goals, what they're trying to achieve. If you can gain more knowledge around different domains, that's also awesome because it's just going to give you more experience. The data analyst portion will come over time, but what you have learned as a business analyst is never going to be over. You will always need that. How important is it to confirm this knowledge with certification? Okay, I've discussed that question once with one of my mentees, and I think I will tell you the same thing that I told to her. Certification, if you are just going to pass it because you would like to learn something new is awesome. It's a good thing to have. But if you already know a lot of things, I would definitely recommend for you to go read, study more, and then pass a certification. Why? First of all, learning, reading more will most probably give you some eye-opening results. You know, it was similar for me. I mean, I was already working in a bunch of projects related to data, but when I was reading the guide, there were still revealing portions around what actually sits behind analytics. You know, it's like a connection of dots. Um, Passing a certification, it already proves that you are an expert in the domain. It might not always be the case and well supported, but if you feel that you have the strength in that area, I would definitely recommend you to go in for a certification. So you would also have that proof when you are showing your CV and saying that, yes, I've also done that. I have the knowledge around that domain. Okay. Okay, lots of questions coming in. I will take one more and we will continue and then we'll stop back. So in the context of rapidly evolving data landscapes, what are the key skills and tools that BAs need to master to stay ahead? I will leave that for the bottom. I'll make sure that we get to the end of that presentation so I can answer to that question. Let's see, maybe another one. Can we define behavioral data analytics as a separate category of advanced analytics, analyzing patterns of behavior to understand how customers or users interact with products? Behavioral data is another type of data. So I don't think we have to put it outside of the context of these different analytics categories. What these categories are actually giving us is a distinguishment more around what are the type of questions that they are answering when it comes to data, past, future, predictive, prescriptive. If we're talking about behavioral data of customers, that's another type of data. That can also be, you can compare that to, let's say, how our portfolio of products is growing over time. What kind of products did we have in the past? What we have today? What do we want to have in the future? It's a product related data. Behavioral data of customers doesn't make any difference. It is more popular, I think, these days. It's just being used a lot. Why? Because customer experience and how customers feel in the digital era is actually something super important for the companies. This is how they make their profit off. They are trying to make their customers happy. So this is why the majority of the topics are usually around the customer behavior. So what customer does, how can we improve that feeling so that customers can buy more, they can interact more with us. Okay, could you describe typical data related project? I am taking questions from Stefan. That's from YouTube, guys. Could you describe typical data related projects? Okay, I am not sure I can fit in a definition of a typical data related project. I am afraid data related projects can be anything dependent on what the goal of the project is. And I can give you some examples of what I have seen. I have faced projects that are purely related to data. As already mentioned, I was working for quite a long time with a reporting system. So as you can imagine, what we were doing was we were working with that data. We were not even analyzing it. We were just providing those reports. There were business people analyzing the data, but we were providing for them some visual representation. So there is an example of a data-related project. I also had the experience with working with a project that actually started from an API. So we were just looking into a service. I don't think it was meant in my head to be a data related project, but at the end it turned out to be. Why? Because that simple API was supposed to be providing product data, and it grew enormously. So there goes another data-related project. We just couldn't pass without the data along it. And then that one drove into another, which I would say was an e-commerce project. But being an e-commerce project, it required a lot of data. And we also did some analysis behind it. So we would present the data in an appropriate manner for the people who were using it. It was a B2B business at that stage. So there you go, data related again. So yeah, maybe you won't be really able to drive away from a data related project these days. But anything which comes with you being involved into a process where you have to do something either with the data or just with a change which is driven by a data is going to be a data related project. Okay, what do these projects usually involve and what is the customer's goal? What is the customer's business? Typical team composition on a typical project. Okay, I guess I've already mentioned, well, it can be any kind of business. It's not something that you can put in strict framework and say those are the industries or these are the domains where this is going to fall. What will be the customer goal? Well, that is going to differ based on what the goals for the company are. So maybe they will just want to grow their profit and they know how to use data so that they can grow that profit. Um, and that might happen from different ways, right? Maybe you throwing more successful campaigns or figuring out that you can build a product that is going to be well sold, growing the profit, or figuring a way how you can grow a market share. Fine, that's going to grow the profit as well. What would be a typical team composition on a typical project? That is going to depend on the project, really. If you can imagine a project that is still data related, but not super sophisticated, there are still companies who are not using machine learning and AI. So you can even have regular data engineers with analysts and quality assurance people. There you go, a typical composition even for a regular project, I'd say, with the only difference that your engineers are going to be better in data. So that's why they're called data engineers. If we're talking about a more sophisticated project where you already have capabilities and technologies you can use, like machine learning, and you have large volumes of data to analyze, which is also going to require technology being involved there, you will most probably also have a data scientist or a team of data scientists involved into that project. So they will be helping out. What is that difference between what the business analyst does and what data scientists, data engineers do? We will take a look in a little. And I'm taking the last one and we're going back to the presentations because I'm afraid that we'll eat the time. And how attractive is it comparing with other career paths in business analytics? Okay, I'm assuming how attractive business analysis you're talking about our domain. Well, I'm afraid I will be biased when I answer because I love my job. And I think that it's thrilling that we as business analysts are actually capable of being super close to the business itself. So all of these stakeholders that we are interacting with are often business people, and we can kind of dive deeper into what they're doing, dive deeper and understand into what their pains are, what they feel like it's positive when it comes to their business, actually live with their business. When it comes to the other professions, I can't really say. Most probably they're also thrilled of what they're doing. But from my perspective, it's curious, to understand different domains, to see different business problems that are being faced by different people and how you can help them out, how you can help them out drive changes, how you can help them out progress ahead. And data is one of these things that also sits there. And this is where our curiosity also helps a lot. Okay, guys. I'll take the last one and we'll keep on going. We'll just speed it up. Can AI consolidate and reduce the data usage, or it is used only to consume data and produce results? I am not sure how AI exactly can reduce the data usage, to be honest. I'm not an artificial intelligence expert. I'm telling you right away. I'm a little old fashioned in that manner. But artificial intelligence itself is using the data behind the scenes. What ChatGPT needs so that it can sit there and answer your questions, compose your stories, even if you want, when you're working with user stories, it uses data behind. It uses all of this information that has been provided by someone, and this is how it's composing its answers. So I do not think that it can really reduce the data usage. It's going to grow the data usage itself. Whether it's going to consolidate it, maybe in a manner, but I guess only the future will show us how AI is going to evolve. And there was one more, taking this one as well. Does predictive analytics always use complicated algorithms like in data science, or is it just other approach questions to data and corresponding assumptions? It's rather exactly the approach towards how you're asking your questions, what are the hypotheses that you're building. It might be a more simpler set of data that you're going to use for that predictive analytics, and you might even be capable of doing that with more, how to say, manual ways of doing it. So it's not necessarily needed that you have super complicated algorithms behind. Well, I'm pretty sure that if you have a lot of data, most probably algorithms with more data might be something more fruitful in the insights and the results that you're going to achieve, but that does not mean that you cannot still do predictive analytics without having super sophisticated technologies behind. Oh, thank you guys. That was a whole bunch of questions there. So speeding up into the next one, and we've already started talking about business. So let's look into what are businesses facing these days and what is a data-driven business model? Well, it's not much of a different from what a regular business model would be. The only difference is that it relies heavily on data and is actually allowing you to make more well-informed decisions because you have data behind, data which is based on facts and evidences. And typically, that data is allowing the companies to quickly identify some trends, make more accurate predictions. The more data you have, more accurate you can be in the predictions. You can also develop some strategies so that you can maximize profit, so you can minimize cost. All of that supported with more information, which just makes it a better, more better, better made decision, so to say. And we had a question around this topic, so we are going a little back into that question with that slide. These are not exactly challenges that businesses are facing, but it is rather a study that has been driven by the University of Cambridge. And what they figured based on a survey was that actually most of the organizations are really making their decisions based on gut feeling. So, managers think, I have the feeling that this is how we should do the business and this is how we do the business. It's not a problem to really change that mindset. It's actually just requires a change. And that change might not be so easy to make because it's already culturally involved into how the business is being done. It's also another one which was also mentioned is the lack of sufficient personnel. What that means is that companies are facing that issue of there are not enough good specialists out there who can support these type of initiatives related to data, these mindset changed decision making processes that are going to be involving different people well acquainted with data-oriented projects. And the last one is something which is not a brand new thing. It has rather been there forever, I guess. Data is often not trusted. It's not trusted either because it's truly inaccurate or it's just because it's misunderstood. This is where the analyst can play a crucial role into asking the right questions to the data. Just falling into very quickly into what that process is to actually get a data-driven model. And while we are passing through that one, just think about what you do, guys, every day and how this is just another change that you can manage when you're helping out your stakeholders. So it all starts with analyzing the current model. It all starts with us analyzing what's present there, what's the current state, what are the processes, what are the opportunities sitting behind. It all starts by us helping out our stakeholders to outline goals and objectives. What are we trying to achieve with that data-driven model? The next step would be to work a little more with the data sources. Well, it's critical that we make sure that we identify the data sources that we're going to use to also understand what are the gaps. So maybe we do have the data needed, maybe we don't have it. So we have to figure out what's the gap that we have to fill in to also try to identify maybe we'll be able to use some external data sources accompanied to our primary data sources. And then we have to work with the trends and the patterns available. The next step would be to work and figure out a data-driven strategy. So this is where we help out into identifying opportunities for improvements. We are recognizing where the areas of risk are. We are developing a strategy of this is what we are going to do in the future with that data-driven model. This is what we are trying to achieve. Once we're done with that one, we have to design the model. So we have to think about what is going to be the technical infrastructure we need, including the data sources. What are going to be the tools that we're going to use? What is going to be that user interface, that little tool that is going to help people to interact with the data that we're going to provide. And at the end of the day, we should not forget that we should make sure that whatever tool we're using, whenever we are designing that model, our model is compliant with the legislation and is also secure from the perspective of we are going to be processing data. And in today's world, data breach is something that no one wants. So we have to also think about this one when we are designing. At the end of the day, design being ready, we are ready to implement the model, which means that we are going to set up some kind of a framework which will be outlining some processes, some procedures related to the data management. We should not forget that the last step is always to measure the success. And again, this is something we also do when we are introducing some change. We are going back into validating whether whatever we have done is good enough, so it's providing the results that we are expecting. And because we are talking about data, of course we can help ourselves with just setting up some system that will provide for us some monitoring, some reporting, so that we can evaluate the outcome of us passing through that process of migrating to a data-driven model. um, we just talked a little about whether it's needed for us to have some sophisticated technologies, some modern technologies, if we want to pass to a data-driven model. And here, as previously, I'd say, no, we can start with simple tools. Of course, automation is something that is going to optimize um, and provide us fast information to drive decision-making processes. But if that's not the case, or if the company is not mature enough to take that step, it's always good to start small. And the other thing that shouldn't be forgotten is that, as any other model, it becomes outdated with time. So we have to step aside from time to time and look into it and try to update it according to the current trends and our current situation as a company. What are some of the advantages, disadvantages around such type of a data-driven model? Well, as you can imagine from the advantages perspective, of course, we have an increased efficiency because we are capable of gaining more information faster, which supposedly should be leading to fast and accurate decision making, at least an optimized one. Um, Together with this one, we already talked a little about customers. We definitely want to have our customers happy so we can provide enhanced customer experience. That should ideally provide for us more happy customers, so most probably more profit. And it's giving us some competitive advantage. By understanding those market trends that are going around, we can be up to speed with the latest industry developments. We can try to be speeding up with those companies that are evolving faster on the market. Around the disadvantages, well, the usage of these modern technologies is definitely still costly. So it's a costly investment to start building an infrastructure for a data-driven model. It requires significant investment in technology, into infrastructure, and into people. There are security risks we've already mentioned today. There are a lot of cyber attacks, a lot of data breaches, which means that we have to work closely into making sure that the sensitive information that we are holding is well protected. We might have the other option around, have so much data that we are actually incapable of uh, getting into meaningful insights, which means we've gotten overloaded, too much data around. And there are, of course, some ethical concerns around companies that might be collecting and using customer data without notifying the customer, without requesting that consent that needs to be requested. I will stop here again. We have a question from Howard. What are the key considerations for BAs when integrating niche data sources into an existing data-driven model to enhance targeted business strategies? Okay, I will try to rephrase the question. Hopefully, I got it the right way. So what you're asking is what we should think about when we're looking into using external sources that are going to be needed for the data-driven model with the goal to enhance a targeted business strategy. When you're looking into a specific data source that you are going to use, no matter whether this is an internal or external source, you always have to consider whether that source of data is going to provide you the necessary data. It might be a super cool source, actually holding super cool data inside, but it might not be related to what you are trying to achieve. So if you have certain business strategy and it's focusing on something, right? It's trying to achieve something. You should try to circle those data sources around that strategy instead of just driving in any data source that might provide cool data. Cool data is just not enough. This is where the business analyst actually has a crucial role, because we are playing a role into um, not into sourcing the data, but rather into identifying those data sources that are going to be crucial for the business. This is where we play around with the data a little. We are not super cool, at least, I'm a self-learned in SQL, so I cannot say that I'm super cool in SQL, but I can do those small things where I can look into the data and figure out whether this really is a source that can help me out. It's providing some information. It's might be giving some trends that I can offer to the stakeholders. We can go discuss whether this is going to be useful or not. Um, but if go through that data source and you figure out that, yeah, it's super cool data, it's giving me some notion, but it's just not what it's fitting that business strategy, I wouldn't go for it. And the cherry of the tart, and I guess it's already 8 p.m. I hope you guys are not really bored already. But we've talked a little about data specialists or data professionals, they're also called. And these are our data engineers and data scientists, and they're awesome people with great technical skills. And where we sit in the middle of all that. Well, as already mentioned, we might not be super cool into writing code. Um, I already said I'm a self-taught in SQL, so I wouldn't say, I'm not certified. But I can still do those not so pretty queries so that I can figure out whether some data set is actually useful for me. And I can still do those so I can find out some trends. They are not going to be supported with the full set of data, but they will give me some insights. And with those insights, I can go to either my stakeholders and discuss with them what I figured out, or to the data scientist team if I have one, so that we can work together and see whether whatever I have figured out as insights can be supported by larger data sets with better algorithms. At the same time, we are very good at uh, looking into something and asking many questions, which also provides us the ability to give multiple interpretations to the different trends and insights that we see in the data. We are also good at business analysis, which means that we have that strong intuition, and in many cases, we have super cool domain knowledge. So we can help out our stakeholders by trying to explain what might be sitting beyond that data. And we can often also step in the shoes of the decision maker if that is necessary. And we are also good at representing stuff. So we are the people who know how to make super pretty graphs and plots so that we can actually explain in an easy manner, closer to the mind of the decision makers, any trends that we are seeing, any results that we have gathered from a data analysis. And not to forget the last thing, but yes, a business analyst is great at communication skills, which means that we can explain, we can gap the bridge between the more technical people using their super cool dictionary of awesome words and our stakeholders. And we can be that translator in between into explaining what we found out. There is one awesome technique which is called data storytelling, and storytelling is also a technique in the business analysis itself, but data storytelling is already providing a step further. It tells a story with data behind. And for fun, guys, the step is actually the last slide is actually summarizing again, a survey of what companies are expecting when they're looking for people that have the skills of the business analyst supported with skills related to data-driven projects. And as you can see, these are repeating whatever we've just discussed, but I would like to emphasize on the first one. So we are no longer just working with requirements. We are actually becoming consultants for our stakeholders. We are supporting them in their day-to-day decision-making process. We are trying to help them out in any change that they would like to take and become more successful. And we've took a lot of questions. I will leave that side open. And we have some more. Okay. Could you please provide examples of how integrating data analytics into business strategies has led to transformative outcomes for organizations? Okay, yeah, well, there are well-known large examples out there for such type of strategies. One of the most famous one, I guess, is Spotify. You guys most probably know that they have done quite a lot around analyzing the data and the behavior of the customers of Spotify, and they have built a whole strategy behind that, and it has enormously helped them out into growing their profit. I would really be super happy to be capable of providing you an example of my own experience. Unfortunately, I can only give you an example of what shouldn't be done in case of an enterprise which is not really mature and ready to go for. And if you remember, I spoke a little about a data project which was related to services and product data involved inside. And this is where there was a person stepping in and actually offering to that company artificial intelligence. The problem was that the company itself was not mature. It was not ready to go for this one. We've took a number of years into driving them out of the Excel, which is still a holder of data, into a structured database, and AI was something which was far, far away from their minds. So that's a thing that should also not be done. So there shouldn't be a hurry into moving towards new technologies if the business itself is not ready to go for it. With the rise of AI and machine learning, how do you see our role changing in the context of data analytics? Um, Good question. And the answer would be I do not see myself disappearing. I think I will still be needed as an analyst, and I will still be useful to the people in order to help them out with whatever they want to accomplish in their business. Why I think so? AI is a great tool. Machine learning is awesome. They are going to be helping out more and more the enterprises to move forward. They're also going to be supporting our day-to-day life. As mentioned, most probably will be capable of writing requirements through AI. To be honest, I haven't tried that out because I strongly believe in the human impact when it comes to requirements. But I can assure you that the knowledge and experience that we gain as analysts over the years cannot be easily replaced by artificial intelligence. It will take years and years before artificial intelligence can grow that much that it can replace an experienced analyst who has seen a lot of projects, a lot of domains, a lot of different businesses around. It is going to change in a manner our mindset, because for those projects where artificial intelligence and machine learning are going to be involved, we will have to think more around what are the proper questions that we have to ask that technology so we would get the proper answers. So it's no longer just around asking people, why are you doing that? But also being capable of asking the right question to the data via the usage of the new technologies. And again, we are not going to be the interpreters of that when we'll have data scientists behind us so that they can build the algorithms. But it's important to understand that we as analysts are the people who can figure out what is the right question to ask so we would get the right answer. Then how this is going to be translated into an algorithm is going to be something that will be done by people smarter with technologies. Awesome, guys. I do not see any more questions around. So I guess I can say thank you for being here with me.
Sure, thanks a lot, Desi. I think that was very interesting. I was listening and making some notes, and I'm sure our audience did that as well. I'm very active today with the questions, so that means that the topic is interesting. So thanks a lot. Thank you for this webinar. And yeah, we see a lot of thank you in the chat, so that's like another addition to that. And guys, we will have like a follow-up survey. Please find some like 5 minutes of your time to fill it in. We're really interested to hear your feedback on those sessions, and hopefully you will join the next one. So have a great evening. Thanks for joining. Thanks again, Desi, for doing this wonderful presentation. And see you
Thank you
next
too
time.
for having me. Awesome. Thank you. Have a
Bye
good
bye.
evening.